All right, what's up guys? So today I'm doing the front right wheel bearing G35 coupe. This is the wheel bearing I got, part number and everything from Timken or Timken. It's an authentic bearing. Already got the car jacked up. You don't need it jacked up super high, just enough to where you get the wheel to spin like that without touching the ground. And then all the tools I got right here. Just got a magnetic tray for all my bolts. And then the biggest socket you're gonna need is a 22. That is for the brake caliper bolts. Slide hammer set or a wheel bearing puller. What you're gonna need is basically this part right here. These go around the studs. You put your lug nuts on them, and then you basically pull it out. Also, you're gonna need some wire brushes, some sandpaper just to kind of clean up all the rust, some anti-seize, some thread locker, brake cleaner, and then my drill to use those bits. You're gonna need some torque wrenches as well. Not super necessary, but I like to torque everything to OEM spec. So I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys on the tripod. Let's get the wheel off, and then the brake system off, and then I'll get back with you guys. Okay, so I got the whole brake system off pretty easily on this right side. The 22 millimeters is what holds in the brake caliper right here. Broke those off pretty easily with a breaker bar. And then you're gonna have this bracket that you just kind of maneuver around right here. You can take this off if you want to, but it's not necessary. These 4 bolts right here, they're all 17s. Okay, so you see those? So you got 2 down here and then 2 up here, and then this one right here holds in the ABS sensor, so I'll probably disconnect that. This bolt right here was difficult last time. I had to jack up this part of the car. So basically put a jack right here and jack it up just a little bit so that it kind of moves this bar out of the way because I couldn't fit a socket in. Finally got the bolts out from the back. They're all out. This one down here that I was worried about, I didn't actually have to move it. I was able to fit a wrench on it just a little bit to break it loose without stripping it. I punched these old wheel studs out right here. So these are actually extended, I think about 20 millimeters, 25 millimeters for my Z1 spacer right there. So I want to keep those so it's easiest to punch them out while they're still in the car. So basically you just put you're gonna have to sacrifice a lug nut. Put the lug nut over, screw it on all the way that you can, and then just use your hammer and just hammer it out like that. So now we can go ahead and pull this, but since I've removed the wheel studs, I'm gonna have to find some other bolts that I can basically use. I need 3 of them to use to make sure that the claw can fit over this. I'll show you what I mean once I find some spare wheel studs. Here is the puller kit. We're gonna need the short flange right here. We're obviously gonna need the puller. I think that's about it. We're gonna need a few lug nuts as well as the lug bolts. So I went ahead and just put them on there. And again, these aren't like tight in there. I didn't tighten them or anything. We're gonna grab this, put it over. If you guys don't have extended wheel studs or you don't want to save them, you don't have to do this step. This is just an extra step. You can leave your wheel studs in there. Basically, you just want to tighten these down as far as you can. It's all right if it's a little bit loose. Okay, now that you got that tight in there, get your puller, pull this back a little bit, and then thread it in there. don't know if you can see this, but this is the hammer part. You pull it back and it essentially just pulls this. Now, if you're having trouble doing this, you can heat up this aluminum right here. It will expand. Don't heat up the bearing, just try to go around this aluminum and it will expand a little bit. And then spray some penetrating fluid around this. But it shouldn't be that hard to pull off because it is a steel bearing going into an aluminum part, so it shouldn't be really seized that bad. Here I got the old and the new wheel bearing. You want to make sure that they're the same. Obviously, if you use that part number, it will be the exact same. Just sounds like there's sand in there or something. Here's the new one. No sound whatsoever on the new one. So once we install this, I will be popping these out, like I said, and then putting the new wheel studs. But you guys obviously don't have to do that. So all of this is not gonna work for our new wheel bearing, and there's actually a lip right here of like rust from the old bearing. So get yourself your wire brush on your drill bit. This is perfect for this. And then just start going in here and cleaning up the inside. Doesn't gotta be perfect. It's all right if there's a little bit of a lip. It's not gonna make a huge difference. One of the things I like to do though to make this completely smooth is get one of these disc sanders. This isn't necessary, but it makes this look really clean. Got that all cleaned up. You can shoot it with some brake clean if you want. Make sure it's just super clean before you put your anti-seize on it. And this is the anti-seize I got. This is probably like $5. You're just gonna wanna put this to where the bearing actually meets. So inside, go all the way around. You don't need a whole lot. And all this does is just make sure that if you ever have to change your bearing again, it's not gonna be seized to this thing. Kinda like how it was before. It wasn't a huge deal to get off. Just put a little thin layer around that as well. So now on our heat shield, now this is a steel part, so it's gonna rust if we take too much material off, but I'm just gonna use a little bit of sandpaper and just kind of clean that up just a little bit so it sits flush. And the anti-seize will kind of prevent this from rusting as well, so see a little bit of metal showing there. Just make sure you put anti-seize on it and it shouldn't rust too bad. Put it on any areas where the metal's showing or where it makes contact with the knuckle or bearing. Put a little bit of anti-seize on this as well, just along where the metal touches. Okay, so remember which way your heat shield goes. Actually just line these up, probably be the best thing. And then line that up. All these bolts, you want to make sure you clean these up as well. That way they just thread good in there if possible. It's not looking too bad. So now I'm just using this thread locker from Harbor Freight. It's for high temperature. Start at the top, just kind of put a line. Just like that. That's all I do. And I believe this is like a medium strength hold. So if I do have to take this apart someday, won't be that hard to break these loose. And I will show all the torque specs and everything once I get all these put in. Okay, I'm gonna take this one out. I just use as a placeholder, clean it up, and then put some thread locker on that too. So this bolt, like I said, I might have to jack it up just a little bit to get this in. So I'll probably do that one last. Okay, so now I'm gonna get a jack and then jack it up right here just a little bit because this arm is in the way. So I was able to jack this up and allow me a little bit more room right here, whether it's this arm is to screw this bolt in all the way, and I can even fit a socket on here now. So if you're having trouble getting that bolt down there, just jack up the bottom of the knuckle a little bit and see if you can get it. And I have a pretty thick socket too, but the torque specs on these is 58 to 72 foot-pounds. I'm going to set my torque wrench to about 70 foot-pounds and then torque these down with the 17 millimeter. All right, got them all torqued down. We're done with these bolts in the back. Now all you got to do is just reconnect your ABS sensors in there and make sure you route that below your brake line, because your brake line is going to go back up here. So another step you guys shouldn't be taking unless you have longer wheel studs. So you can see they're quite a bit longer. So since I'm not going to be reusing these, you can literally just get them out just like that. I guess this is turning into a extended wheel stud install, but anyways, pop that in there. And then for this, I got a 19 millimeter that's kind of like a shorter socket. And then last time I did this, I kind of damaged the, kind of made a ring around this. It wasn't a big deal, it's not going to affect anything, but I just didn't like that. So I'm going to use these little washers here to kind of protect everything. Put your stud. And then thread this on as far as you can. And then if you're using a regular regular breaker bar, you're gonna have to brace this with something, either you know, another breaker bar holding down here to hold this in. But luckily I have a torque wrench. There's one. As you can see on the inside of this rotor, it is very, very rusted. And especially on the outside too. We're gonna throw some anti-seize in there, and we need to clean that up to make sure it sits flush. So I got this bit on the drill, and this is gonna be pretty satisfying. There's the inside right there, looks a million times better. And then we'll clean up the outside where the wheel sits. There's that. We're gonna hit this with some brake clean and then apply some anti-seize in here. All right, so I ended up making kind of a small mistake. This heat shield right here, I had it, I guess it only goes on one way. I had it basically flipped to where this lip was coming out this way and it was hitting the rotor. So make sure that you have it kind of bowing in towards the car. And like I said, it only goes on one way, but you can flip it the opposite way. And then the other mistake was same time I stepped in the anti-seize. So that set me back. That set me back about 15 minutes, but now the rotor can go on and we can just get everything caliper on, and then that's pretty much it from there. Put the wheel on, that's it. Slide this bad boy on here. And these bolts get torqued down to 112 foot-pounds. It's pretty precise. I think it's 111.4 to 112.1 foot-pounds. So you don't really have you need to have a good torque wrench if you want to torque the spec. Put back these bolts for the brake lines. And then what I like to do is basically use brake cleaner and clean off the brake, because we know we probably got a little bit of anti-seize on it, and that's not good for the pads. Slide the spacer on. And then you can torque these somewhere between 80 and 100 foot-pounds. All right, it's all done right now. Everything's torqued to spec. Hope that helped you guys install your front wheel bearings. Yeah, subscribe if you guys want to see more G35 content, and then comment any mods that you think I should do. Any kind of maintenance thing that I do, I'm going to be putting on YouTube, so you guys can learn from me. So thanks for watching.